Welcome back to the Dollars and Dumbbells podcast. I'm your host, Justin Green, a certified financial planner, and today I've got a great conversation for you with Carlos Mata. Carlos is the co-founder of Sigma Performance Training out in Houston, Texas. Carlos and his co-founder have grown the gym's revenue to almost $2 million within just 2 years of opening the gym. Whether you're an online coach or a gym owner, this is a really fun conversation with a lot of insights that you could definitely take away from it. Carlos shares why he intentionally chose to go the gym owner route rather than straight online, even though he does do a little bit of online coaching as a hybrid approach. And of course, stay tuned to the end where we talk about what wealth means to Carlos. All right, let's hit some quick disclaimers and then hop straight into the conversation. Justin Green is the founder of Assist FP, also known as Assist Financial Planning LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Massachusetts. All opinions expressed in this episode are solely reflective of Justin's and not of the firm. This podcast is not advice and is solely financial education. I highly recommend before taking any action, you consult with your financial, legal, and tax advisors. Carlos, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey man, pleasure meeting you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. So I always like to kick it off. Let everyone know where you calling in from.
So Houston, Texas, in the River Oaks district area.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we were just talking before we hit record how
Mhm.
it's like 30 degrees and you guys think it's freezing right now. And
Yeah.
I'm dealing with like some 0 degree weather. So
No, normal
it's
days
it's
for
like a
you.
heat wave for you.
Yeah, it's pretty for us. It's like unbearable, but for you guys, it's probably just nice for y'all.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to chat with you. Our friend Jonathan Fletcher introduced us. So anytime Jonathan sends me over someone, I'm always excited to chat with them because I love them over at Digital Barbell. So you got a lot going on. Why don't you give us the
Mhm.
brief overview of kind of what Carlos has going on in the fitness space?
Sure. So I've been in the fitness space for roughly 10 years now as a coach, personal trainer. I was mostly working for corporations that were from 24-hour fitness to lifetime fitness. And then eventually branch off with a business partner who also was used to be my former manager at Lifetime Fitness. So we actually have a brick and mortar. We've been open for 2 years. We're a personal training and Pilates studio called Sigma Performance Training. Most of our business is derived and pretty much from having our in-house trainers. We have about 10 to 12 staff members as we have right now. We do a lot of one-on-one small group training, Pilates in classes, and a little bit in the virtual training aspect. And so we have a little different approach to personal training and Pilates. Um, I know a lot of people are online coaches. I kind of took a different route just because of where my business started from and how it got to this point and how it's evolved over time with that. And then long term, like I said, we've been open for 2 years. We're trying to look at growing into about a 10,000 square foot facility. As a brick and mortar right now, we have about 4,000 square feet. So it's been very successful. We're a seven-figure business within the second year now. So it's been very good.
That's awesome. I'm excited to dive into that because, like you
Mhm.
said, a lot of people are online. They just go straight online, and I think there's obviously some good reasons for that, right? Like you
Mhm.
eliminate a lot of roadblocks to scaling, a lot of the time constraints, but I think there's just something so much different about training in person. And I'm not a trainer, so but
Mhm.
like just from the outside looking in, I've talked to people who will do a little bit of both, and there just seems to always be this passion for the in-person side that like kind of comes through a lot stronger than online. So I'm curious, why did you choose the brick and mortar route? Like, why did you decide to go that when everyone else is just going straight online?
Right. So long term, the play with that would be I would like to develop something that long term I could either pass on when I have a kid one day or actually pass on to other people. And the problem is with the online coaching is it's dependent on how far you want to take it, right? So if I was doing online coaching for 20 years and I just retired, I'd either have to teach somebody else to do it, which that brand wouldn't be the same, or it just dilutes out when you dilute out yourself, right? So that's the first part of it was just what are you going to do long term, big picture. And the second thing I didn't like with the online space necessarily was it's a lot of cookie cutter programs, sell it and get rid of it, and then you're just I sign up five, I lose two next month. It's just you're chasing numbers at that point. And what I've noticed with a lot of coaches that I've worked with who have these kind of business programs is they're either trying to scale rapidly without looking at quality. So quality diminishes over time, which in the space that we're in, branding is a huge thing. And that's something I just didn't want to do. I started off as a one-on-one coach long ago, and I acquired clients like crazy. I kept them, and so for me to kind of just like let them go to start an online business wasn't the right fit for me. And I had a little bit more of a passion to coach and develop people as trainers to do one-on-one training. So even on my online personal training, I actually do customized training based on the client, right? So it's not like here's a program I wrote out for the last 10 people here, everybody take it. It's every Sunday I'm spending about an hour and a half per person developing their programs, calling them, figure out what their travel schedule is like. So it's very customizable. And then when you're one person doing that, you can't take on 40, 50 people like that. It's just going to be a terrible product. So it's a total different approach, and that I didn't have the passion for that one.
Dude, I love your reasoning. I love just straight up. You were like, I want to pass this on one day. And that's one of the biggest issues that I talk to online coaches all the time about. My background, financial advising, is I tell them you're not building a sellable business. You're building a business based off your personal brand, which can go really far. Don't get me wrong. And you can hire assistant coaches and whatever. But at the end of the day, like it's a really hard business to sell. And if you do sell it, all you're really doing is selling off profit and cash flow.
Right.
So if you just, quote unquote, reinvest into the business for years and years and years, and you never actually take the time to like funnel the profit into personal wealth and, go invest in assets somewhere else, when the time comes, you're not going to be able to sell the business and you're going to have built no other wealth. So I think that that's huge. I'm curious, do you own the facility that you're in, or you guys rent that?
Yeah, so we lease out spacing here as a new
Okay.
business. Me and my business partner, we're 50-50 on it. So
Gotcha.
she's married with a daughter, so she needed something for her to say, again, pass off something for her daughter, right? For me, it was like,
Right.
I'd like to have that one day. So when I have it, build it up. And then, yeah, we're passing owning equity in something that long term, if we could back off and teach others how to do this, now you have something that has a model that works for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And like right now you're leasing the facility, but someday maybe you guys explore actually buying the real estate that the facility's in, right? Because
Right.
then you're not only like, okay, not only do we have a gym business that we could hand off and pass on, we've got a piece of real estate. So even if,
Right.
her daughter and your future children don't want to run a gym, they're like, well, that
Right.
sounds terrible.
And we
It's
looked at
like,
that too.
oh,
It's just what I've noticed in the area that we're in, it's a very expensive piece of real estate out here. So the
mhm,
problem you run in with a fitness facility is when you get into these kind of businesses, the commercial space, you need to have a certain amount of like parking spots, for example, for your business, right? In this area, you're looking around for what we're looking for, 10,000 square feet is anywhere between 10 to probably $20 million for that amount of space. If we go outside in the
gotcha.
suburbs, that's a little different. Like, okay, it's a little easier to acquire that much space. So what we're looking at is probably renting long term here inside the city where it's very popular that matches our price points, and then expanding over time into the suburbs with a different price point, same product, but you're actually acquiring and buying out real estate out there.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
I want to learn more. Like, all right, so you've had the facility for 2 years, you said?
Correct. We just passed our 2 year anniversary last month.
And I think you said you were doing well over seven figures already.
Correct. Yeah, we just cleared up right now about 1.7 million last year. The year before that, we hit right under $1 million. We've almost pretty much doubled from the first year.
That's awesome. So how have you grown so quickly?
So the first thing I always tell any fitness professional, especially if you do a one-on-one, is you got to know your market, right? So a lot of coaches will just throw a price out there. They don't know, like, is it something that's one, worth your time, and two, what's your game plan with that cash flow you got coming in, right? So first thing we looked at was we had to be in the right market for all the clients that we had that we acquired and brought over here. We brought in around like 40 to 50 members when we first started. We're growing over here now to about 400 members in the past 2 years. So we had to be in the right area for the right price point. And honestly, the best way to do it is just networking. We did word of mouth through every single person. Our business model is a little different than most gyms, quote unquote. Again, we're just designed and developed just for personal training, so we don't sell memberships. Our space is only open for people who train with us at least once a week. So if you're training with us once a week, you're allowed to come in as many times as you want this. So it's a little more of a exclusive private facility that they wouldn't get somewhere else. And it also helps us understand how to create like this massive market of like a collaborative effort of knowing your community. So we would connect with a lot of CEOs that we have here who run businesses, ask them questions, how we can help their people out. I would do meetings with certain people who have other small businesses, like, hey, you've got 20 members or 20 employees. Let's see if we can network with them and be involved with their health and wellness. So we would inquire about that. And then honestly, it's just the quality of the product. At the end of the day, I got very fortunate that a lot of the clients I have are really high net worth clients, and then just talking to them, engaging with them on a daily basis, asking questions helped me grow my network. So when they saw the passion I had, they were more than willing to help me out, whether it's a loan for my business, growing, expanding, inviting their friends and family over here, and then just start pivoting to other people that we had as well.
Yeah, so this is probably a good time to mention that you were shouted out on the Huberman podcast by one of your clients,
Hmm.
Dr. Gabrielle Lyons.
Hmm.
What was that like? I mean, that's a massive podcast. She's got a massive
Right,
following. I mean, she's just short of 1 million followers on Instagram. I mean, what was that
right.
like?
It's kind of surreal at some point, right? Because when I first met her, I didn't even know who she was. It was funny because when we first met, it was like, do you know what? I'm like, nah, here's who I am. I take my training serious. She was looking for a trainer at the time, a coach. And it really just connected, right? Like, I think one thing we share in common is we have a passion for what we do and we try to be the best at it. So when we came together, it was like, okay, this is what I do. This is what you do. How can I help you? And how can you help me? And she is one of the big pieces that's helped me grow my business tremendously, which was the networking side. So, um, again, she shouts me out and she looks out for me. And at the same time, I'm looking out here like, hey, you guys, they're looking for the right doctor. Let me get you connected with Gabrielle. Let's see if we can help you with your health and wellness as well. So I try to collaborate with not only myself and my business, but tying other members together as well who can help each other out.
So most people go online because you open up yourself to this massive market, you're limitless. But what I'm hearing from you is there's so much power in tying into that local community.
Mhm.
Like it's almost like, yeah, it's a much smaller pool, but you get to be that bigger fish in a smaller pond than when you're online, you're competing with everyone, like
Right.
literally everyone, right? And so it's a lot
Mhm.
harder to stand out, even if you're the best coach in the world. It's a lot harder to
Mhm.
stand out because actually, in order to stand out, you have to be the best marketer in the world, not the best
Right.
coach. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm just hearing the power of like this collaborative relationship you've built within your community. And it's really cool to hear. I want to go back to your business model. I want to make sure I understood this correctly. So at your facility, as long as I train with you once a week, I can then come in any day I want, or you can
Mhm.
only come in for training.
Yeah, so you come in as many times as you want by yourself. So it's basically like a gym
Gotcha.
access point. We just don't sell to the public like, hey, I'm looking for
Makes
membership.
sense.
It just keeps it a little more private because we have some types of
Yeah,
clients here who just want to be private. But secondly, it allows me to have a conversation with people who I know work with us, right? So if I had just a bunch of people working on their own in a big gym, there's no connective way I can be with them and
for
get to know
sure.
them, talk to them, right? They're on their own working out, don't want to be bothered. And then it just gives us more access to the equipment. So again, we have only 4,000 square feet. That's a lot of equipment we do have, but when it gets busy, it's okay. We've got to share and use the space the best we can. So it does kind of limit the amount of people we have in here for that reason. But it allows me to adjust my price point, allowing that exclusivity to be a very important piece to why we charge a certain amount.
That exclusivity is huge. I imagine it's a huge value piece, especially if you're bringing in clients with a higher net worth and a little bit more status of like they don't want to be mixed in with the general public. And so I think
Mhm.
that's a really cool like concept and makes a lot of sense. Um, I feel like I've obviously heard of like private training facilities, but I don't know if they have the same type of like you can come in as long as you're a client, you can come in whenever you want. I
Right.
don't know if that's common. I think you said
They
that's
they
unique,
will
right?
have it, but they'll probably so what usually happens in those dynamics, you'll see a lot of these. I own the gym because I'm the owner, but I hire independent trainers. So you would pay me $1,000 a month as a trainer just to be here. You take all the commissions or whatever you charge for your clients, that's all yours. Just have them give you a membership. The problem you'll
Hmm.
see with that is as a gym owner, let's say I have enough space for 200 people. That means I'm going to charge 200 memberships as a flat fee. I'm tapped out. There's no way I can maximize that growth because that's the most amount I can keep in this square footage. So you would just hit a dead end. And the problem with that too is you're allowing independent trainers to make their own decisions and change the quality of your space. So you could put a name on a building, but that brand means nothing because it's just a name of a gym. The employees, the trainers, the brand, the uniform, all that has to come together where they wear whatever they want. Some of them eat on the floor when they're training a client. If you can't dictate that, then the space doesn't mean nothing at that point. So you'll have gyms like that, but most of the time it's an independent training facility. And then there's like a huge disconnect between the owner of the brick and mortar and then the rest of the people. So temporarily between when I was at Lifetime and my current space, we had about 4 months that we're building out that I did work at a independent place like that. And that's exactly what you saw was ownership was there, but they disappeared. Trainers there with their certain client. Nobody talked to anybody because they just had their one-on-one. They just left. So there's a huge disconnect of a community in that aspect. So we want to change it where it's still a community, it's still an ownership of a gym, but we all work together. Will teach the trainers how to run a business themselves, how to make their own marketing with our brand attached to it, how to educate and coach them on the actual training side of things as well as the business. So it gives us some ownership to help them grow. And then the commissions are a little bit more in their favor so they can actually get something of value as well.
So are you still paying them as like 1099 contractors, or are they
Yep.
like W-2 employees?
No, they're 1099.
1099.
1099. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we split everything 60/40 for all our trainers. So when they come in, we adjust the rates based on their knowledge base that they have. So we have 3 tiers of training rates, and then based on that, they'll get their percentage of everything they touch.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to pivot a little bit. I saw a
Mhm.
post where you mentioned fitness professionals, if they want to be in the 1%, need to learn how to manage client expectations. And I want you to
Mhm.
dive into that.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm sure you deal with it too when you talk about finances, right? Like a lot of people have these huge expectations, but you'll look at things from either financial side of stuff or even with training, there's behaviors and habits that don't match those expectations. And that's also including into when we do one-on-ones, the trainer themselves, where I could promise you to make a sale like, hey, just I'm gonna give you, we're gonna get you down 20 pounds in the next 6 weeks. I can do that for you. If you sign today, we can get started, we'll get you there. The problem with that is it's an unrealistic expectation because one, the terms and conditions, your T's and C's that what you're providing me and when I get to you, we're not matching up, right? So I don't need to sell you anything. I just need to be upfront, honest with you. And so what you start seeing is either the fitness professional is not upfront about what they're offering as well as what the client's offering. They'll tell you like, oh, I'm going to change my diet or I commit to this. And then as time goes, there's a disconnect with that. So the expectations not being matched, things come up. Sometimes we oversell. If you're a fitness coach out there, I've seen it several times. They oversell or overpromise something they can't deliver, and they know they can't deliver. And I think a lot of times it's I'm just trying to get a client. I need to make a sale rather than just being upfront and knowing how to coach that properly. So if you're able to not only manage their expectations as well as yours, I think if you're good at it, and you should be, you can still gain business and at the same time fulfill that business to the right expectation then.
I think in the simplest terms too, you have to look at it as like a short term and a long term play,
Mhm.
right? The short term play is you can sign up a client by telling them, all their dreams will come true with no work. And, this is kind of the Hormozy thing, right? Is like decrease the amount of time to get results and people sign up and, pay whatever, like that improves the offer. And it's like, yeah, but if you over exaggerate that and then the client's not happy, and really all you did was ruin your reputation. You got a little bit of money, so short term value on the sale. Whereas, like, I saw your post and I was like, I really want to hit this because I love this. Yes, it might hurt your conversions. It might take longer to grow your business, but you're going to grow a much more sustainable business because you're going to get clients who are in it for the long term
Right.
and who get what you promised. And so they're going to be much happier and they're going to probably refer you to friends, etc. Whereas, like, I do think this is like a very common thing in the online space where and like I get it early on, you just need clients, you're trying to pay your bills and stuff, but you get on this like hamster wheel of over promising and under delivering, and it's just a terrible way to
Right.
grow a business.
Well, and I think that what detaches people at that point, they forget too, is what brand are you trying to set, right? So if I tell you exactly what the expectation could be based on what I hear and see, and you tell me the truth in terms and conditions of that, I can actually tell you where we're going to get to. And I'm not going to oversell. This is exactly what it's going to be. So I'll give you an example. I always tell this to my team. If you have cancer and you go to a doctor, they're not going to like, well, I can cure that cancer tomorrow. Like, that's not true. And you're not going to buy into that, right? But if someone's up front saying, here's what we're going to have to diagnose you with, here's how the treatment's going to be, this is what it costs, and this is how much time it's going to take, and I need you to do this, this, and this. If your life is on the line, you're going to whatever it takes. I'm going to do it. we need to apply that to everything else in life. And I've noticed people don't do that when it comes to training, finances. I mean, if you're bleeding money every month, but you know there's a lot of habits you got to be upfront when you talk to an advisor, like, hey, here's my problems. What do I got to do to kind of stop the bleeding? Same thing with training. What is causing you to have these habits? What is causing you not to show up or fulfill what you're asking us to do? And same thing with trainers, like your brand, right? I don't sell something I can't fulfill. I won't overpromise you something that's exactly what we get to based on what you're telling me. Because when you see it's working, you'll know I didn't have to sell you based on just a hard sell. It was pretty much just telling the truth. And it's very easy to tell truth at that time. And so
I
people
think
just miss the
also
brand. The branding of it just terrible for people. I look at them like you have to look at yourself saying, yes, I want a client now, but if I do the right thing now for one, they're going to tell other people, get networking on this and bring them and say, hey, this guy did this to me. He's exactly what he said he's going to do, and I want to help him out. He's doing really well with this. So you'll build your business long term if you take the right approach to it.
Yeah, exactly. And you keep using the term branding, and for anyone listening, is like you're not talking about colors and logo. Like you're talking about reputation. You're talking
Right,
about reputation,
right.
right? Like your reputation is on the line here when you do that. And I think this is probably even more important. It's important for everyone, but I think the stakes are higher for you in a local community, right? Because word
Mhm,
travels fast. If you overpromise and underdeliver, that's going to travel fast, and people are going to hear that. But I think people need to hear this lesson, take it online as well. Because yeah, there's other people you can get, but you're going to get burnt out as a business owner if
mhm,
you're constantly having to chase new clients. And I do see this a lot in the online space. And you brought in the fitness or I'm sorry, the finance example. So I got to go there for a minute. But
mhm.
the amount of fitness professionals that I will talk to, and I'm like, are you tracking your income and expenses? No. I'm like,
Right,
if a client comes to you and tells you they're gaining weight and you say, are you tracking your macros? And they say no, like, what are you going to tell them?
right.
Or your calories or whatever philosophy it is. Like, what are you going to tell them that they, need to track when you figure out da da da? And it's like, same concepts apply. That's why I love working with the fitness industries, because fitness and finance they're the same thing. You just
Mhm.
substitute, the physical side and the financial side, but like all the concepts, they're the same. So I love it.
Right.
So I think you're really spot on with that, and the branding of just like you need to take a long-term view on how you're going to build this business, and not be
Mhm.
so focused on that short-term sell.
Right. But I also have like the other thing that I tell people too is you got to put yourself in that person's shoes, right? So there has to be some form of respect to know. Like a good example, when we, and I don't like using the word sell so much because people are like, oh, you're just trying to push something and make a buck on them. I'm offering a solution of what someone has a problem with. So if you are looking to do this, I want to offer the right solution. And there's a cost. So I'm not going to be shy about the cost because of what it's worth. But I do want to be upfront and say this is what we're doing, but also be understanding what that person's going to feel like on the other side, right? It is for someone who, in your example, like finance, they might be truly embarrassed about where they're at in life with finances and just doesn't know. And you don't want to take advantage of someone who's very intimidated to say, here's what the problem is, even with training. Hey, I've gained this much weight. I feel like crap. I look like crap. I'm embarrassed to go to you because that's the first thing we notice when we get people is I don't think I'm worthy enough to work out. I'm not ready to work out, so you wouldn't take me on as a client. I'm like, no, that's actually the opposite. Like, you guys are the right people we want to meet with and work with. So, a lot of people I tell them, like, make sure you understand what their mindset is or how they may feel. So, when you talk to them, it's not a push of a sale. It's more so like understanding and coming to agreement. So, when you do close a deal, it feels good for both parties at that point.
Yeah, we gotta dive into that a little bit. So I always this is so funny because you're spot on. It's like, oh, you probably don't want me as a client. It's like, no, you're my like ideal
Right.
client. Like you are in pain. You need the help that I can give you. But I always feel like I hear online coaches complain about the clients who aren't perfect per se, right? Like the ones who don't put in the work 100% of the time, don't follow directions, etc. And it's like the people who do 100% of it, they don't need your help. Like
Right.
they're fit. You know what I mean? Like they don't really need your help. It's the imperfect client that actually needs your help a lot. So you have to learn how to approach that situation, how to be a good coach to someone who's not perfect, right? Because they need your help the most. And for you, for the fitness side, it's a little bit easier because you can be overweight and have the money to pay someone for training. On the finance side, because I see this in my industry a lot of like advisors who won't work with someone under $1 million, in their investment account. And it's like a little bit trickier, right? Because like if someone's in a whole bunch of debt, it's like, well, you can't really pay me to help you, so we, have
Right.
to navigate that a little bit differently. But just because someone's overweight doesn't mean they can't, pay what you are charging for training, and I just think that's a really important point to consider because I see so many coaches who they just want that perfect client, and
Right.
that they don't need your help. Those aren't the clients that need your help.
Right. Well, and I'll say a lot of times that comes down to, and again, I've worked with so many different types of coaches, like, hey man, how do you do this and that? So I'll listen to them. The first thing I was asking, like, when you say that wasn't the right client or that wasn't the perfect client, what are you trying to accomplish with your business? Are you really trying to help people, or are you just trying to build a brand saying, I'm the best coach for the top people out there? Those are two different areas, right? So a lot of
Yeah,
times with coaching, I have to literally tell people okay, so I'll give you an example, right? So I look at my portfolio of all my clients every single week, go over where they're at, right? So Gabrielle is pretty much like the pinnacle of like aesthetics, training, honor stuff, the whole 9 yards, right?
she looks like a beast.
And right, and and she truly is amazing, right? And if I built my business finding those kind of people, I would take forever doing that. I'm just
Yeah,
privileged to have the opportunity to work with that person, right? I use her network and say, I need you to find me people who would like to be that, but need to start from ground zero. And so you actually have a massive pool of these people where they feel like I could never work with that trainer, Carlos, because he only trains those people. That's not true. And so if you look at most of the time when I make posts about all my clients, I try to post different types of people. Older people I have, younger kids I train for powerlifting, her, because I want people to see every person I touch and work with.
mm,
Truly, they're all different types of people, right? And so, if you're trying to build yourself, like an example, trying to work with the Gabriels in the world, look, I'm one of the best coaches there is, but there's a lot of other people better than me. And I'm very upfront about that. And so, you're competing on a massive scale with a bunch of people like that. So, you better know what your brand is. You better have a ton of clients to back it up, a lot of proof of concept. You can't go cookie cutter programs and sell because I'll give you an example. I could put my name on a program I build and Phil Heath or Jay Cutler, those two bad guys, right? They can put their own program saying, like, all right, which one are you gonna buy? They have a massive following, they have the
right.
marketing, they have the body and structure. So I could never sell what they sell, and they could say it's $40 a month. How could I compete with that? It's just not going to work, right? So I
Yeah.
know my niche to say, look, I love working with the general population for the most part. People who come with me with a problem, I want to fix it. I just have a huge love and passion for. I know how you feel because I've been there before, and I want to be able to help you saying I can train anybody from a Gabrielle all the way down to someone who's terrified and never touched a weight in their life. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have an advisor friend who's actually looking for a trainer right now, and he sent me over a couple profiles, and he was like, "I don't understand why none of them like do one-to-one coaching. It's just like cookie cutter
Mhm.
programs." And I was like, "Well, look at who you're sending me. These people have like 300K plus followers." I was like, "Think about it. If
Right.
you had that audience, you can just put out a $20 templated program. You have the volume to just like rake it in. Like they don't need
Mhm.
to do the one to one. If you want that, you need to go look for that. Like I call it like the mom and pa type thing. Someone who's maybe they're online, maybe they're local, but who's more
Right.
focused on providing that high value one to one relationship. And so I just to kind of go off the point you were just making of like Phil Heath, Jay Cutler,
Mhm.
they could put out a program, and there's fitness
Oh yeah.
influencers, there's coaches, there's bodybuilders, there's people all over who've got those massive audiences that can do just that. So you can't
Right.
compete with them, right? Like you can't price
Mhm.
based on what they're doing. You can't market the same way. Like you got to figure out like
Right.
how you're going to build that more higher end valuable relationship.
Mhm. Well, the other thing too is I always scale even further back, right? So I tell my team the same thing. If I look at a business card for a trainer or fitness coach is truly your social media. At the end of the day, that's where it
Yeah.
starts. Then you have, if you do one-on-one, they spread the word for you, but truly your business card is just that. Now, I'm fortunate enough to say I've been 20 years in powerlifting and weightlifting. I have a huge background in competitiveness, and I've built my business from that. So when I started in the training, before that, I was in corporate America doing supply chain management for HP, big hospitals in the area over here. So I was doing a bigger thing over
I
there.
was wondering
So
what
when I
your
flipped,
background was because I hear
yeah, it was
more business like knowledge there
business,
than the average like
right?
trainer. That
Well, and
makes
I
sense.
understood the concept of like, look, man, at the end of the day, I tell every fitness professional out there this one thing. A lot of people I work with run businesses. I train them and they pay me per hour. The thing, and people hate that. That's why they go to the fitness coaching online. It's like, oh, I could take 10 clients and spend 4 hours a day and I did all this and made money. If you could, everybody be making a ton of money. It's not true.
Hmm.
It's not. You have to have a ton of clients, right?
Right.
And yes, it's more time to consume and say, I work with one person, 1 hour. I do 12 hours a day of training. It's just a lot of work. Sure. But what they forget is I built this current business I have that's super successful on knowing that I actually work with these people who are the top in their industries and I get free information. I literally sit there and ask them, like, hey, man, so if you were to do this, how would you like? That's how I built this. Like, I have a good business background. I have 3 degrees. One is finance, one is supply chain management, one in business management. So I learned a lot of these things. So I say, all right, I know this much. I've been training and working out for years, working with some great coaches who helped me train. Now I want to be a trainer. So I quit my job, became a trainer, and I loved it. Now it's like, okay, I can't train for the rest of my life because I retire. I'm not getting money because there's nothing else unless I invest it. So I want to open a business. Well, let me start talking to clients who run a business. Let me learn what they went through, their struggle, and they will literally tell you everything. I'm like, man, they can't. There's people in their companies that wish they could talk to their CEOs. I mean, I train some of the top people, and they can't even know or talk to them. I get to sit there every time I see them for a full hour, like, hey, man, so what do you think about this? I got this cool idea, and they just give me free information that people probably pay them for. So like the one-on-one has a lot of benefits that people just neglect because a lot of times when I see fitness coaches, they don't even know how to have a good conversation or a dialogue with their clients or get to know them outside. Like, okay, cool, man, you hit like a great deadlift, cool. Like, what's going on with their personal life? How are they doing with business? Is that going to apply to your training? Is their mental state matching their physical state? If it's not, how do we coach them up? It's not just let's hit the PRs and go. Like I need to know everything that's going on because the more I invest in you, the more you're going to invest back in me. And so that's what actually stimulated, luckily, this whole business was learning from others that I trained for that who paid me per hour. And they just opportunely like just gave me loans if I needed, if I wanted to build this thing out.
I once heard a coach say, like, you're not a real trainer until you've spent an hour with a 75-year-old grandma on the gym floor. Like, until you can learn how to have that conversation, like
Right.
it's a lot easier to just give some coaching in a program to a 75-year-old
It's
online.
true.
But when you have to
It's
spend an hour
you're like
with
a
them,
therapist, man. You're literally just like I'm telling him, and so my girlfriend and I we talk all the time at night because I'll do like 15 hours a day at work. And she's like, man, you're always tired. Like you don't talk much. I'm like, every hour I'm having a new personality I
you're
talk
talking
to,
all
and it
day.
goes from I'm coaching, coaching, coaching. All right, I gotta go with my CPA and talk about numbers real quick and all the P&L reports I have. Turn that off. All right, I got 4 meetings with 4 different coaches here. What's their business plan? So I'm switching mindsets. So by the time you're done, you're really tired. But at the end of the day, you're just like, man, I'm learning and growing from a business owner to a trainer, and then learning from clients and trying to help them out. And it's a lot. So the one-on-one space is a completely different realm. And I honestly have to say it's a little more time consuming and mentally draining than it is on the online space. But from what I've seen, the online space is so saturated, it's like drop shipping, that you're going to be fighting so hard to find something where it's like, man, the one-on-one space has a lot of benefits. I mean, I've got 3 coaches right now making over 6 figures in this place as just one-on-one coaches. And if you look at the demographic and the general income of a coach, it's like 35,000 a year in this area.
Mm.
And so for me, it's like if I can take my staff and make them successful, whatever they may be, financially, or have a pride saying like, hey, it's okay to say you're a fitness coach. There's a pride to that. You're actually doing well with that, right? It's not well, I'm like just a basic person. No, there's some privileges and pride to know you have that title. And then on top of it, like you can make a great living, have some balance, and then try to finesse out like, do you want to be an owner one day? Do you just want to be a coach? Maybe you get like me at this point, like I have so many clients now, they want the online space. Okay, I'll dive into that later if I need to, right? So um, but yeah, man, there's like I think people overlook this one-on-one space. And like there's so many benefits to it that people are just missing out on.
Yeah, you're building a lot of skills and you kind of skip that when you go straight online, especially as a younger
Mhm.
coach. And the reality is a lot of coaches online don't make as much money as they say they do, or as I
Right.
should rephrase that. They don't make as much money as the business coaches say that you will make if you get into their program.
Yeah.
Um, so, all right, before we end this, I want to ask you two things that are kind of off topic. One, I've noticed a little bit of Hyrox
Mhm.
content coming from the gym. Looks like you're an affiliate with them. Tell me about that. Like that, Hyrox is gaining a lot of popularity, and I kind of want to do
Right.
one.
Yeah. So I actually, so I'll be honest, man. Like I coached a lot of coaches for CrossFit for years.
Okay.
And so CrossFit became a big thing. The only problem I have with CrossFit, a lot of people got hurt. So I
Yeah.
saw a lot of injuries coming out of it, right? So as a coach, you're
I
like,
don't
all right,
have the
let's
shoulders for CrossFit. I mean, my
well, that's what
shoulders,
happens, right?
yeah, my shoulders are smoked to begin with. And then all I ever heard was, you know, 35-year-old men tearing their shoulders in CrossFit. And I was like, well, I'm already
Yeah.
like out then. Like I can't do that.
Right. Well, and then to teach the movements like an actual full snatch, power snatch, clean and jerks. I mean, that took, it takes you, I've
Yeah.
did it for years, 12, 13 years of that, right? So to teach that to someone's like, hey man, I'm a financial planner. I just
Right.
want to go and do some competitive stuff. Like you're going to tear your body up, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if I told you like, all right, well, if you're going to beat up your body, well, guess what? Now you got to go back to work, and then you got other things, you got kids. If it doesn't apply to the life you want to live, right?
Right.
So the cool thing about Hyrox that we noticed was we started this as a when we started this place, we affiliated with them at the early stages, so about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is the low amount of injuries or the risk to injury was so low. But it gave people something to say, like, all right, I've got all these clients here who like are looking for the next thing to do. Why not team build them, right? So I'm gonna get about 20 of these guys together. We're gonna do classes together, and then we're all gonna jump as a team, like me and a couple of the coaches. We're gonna travel around and do this as a team as well. So the races, so it's different than High Rocks where it's eight or CrossFit, it's 8K, 8 events, same weights, same events. You're just trying to get better and better every time with the time,
Competing with
right? So whether
yourself.
you have right, and so and the other thing too is like you can train for that and still use the equipment, whether it's squats or deadlifts, those are modalities to apply to that stuff. But you're not looking at saying like, okay, is this person get hurt for this? And can it be good for their life, even if they're a doctor or a CEO, whatever you might be, right? A mom, we've had women doing it too. So, it gave someone the idea of like, hey, I can still be competitive and I'm, 30, 40, 50-year olds, I can do this. It's like, yeah, we can do it as a team too. So it's been a great partnership with them. We have grown our High Rock side of the business up to 60 people now that are all in this gym that do that with us. One of the guys who started this was one of my clients. The guy used to be a former Olympian who's a marathon runner who found this and told me about it. I trained him on it. Next thing I know, it's like we started to do High Rocks because of him.
Yeah, it's gaining in
So,
popularity. I mean, you think it's gonna I think from the outside looking in, I think it's gonna keep growing. I mean, I'm
right.
assuming you would agree with that.
I, as long as it doesn't change as far as like the risk reward to the injuries, yes.
Well, and that's
Like
what
you said with CrossFit, it's like you show up to a comp, you're like, you don't know what you trained for to do it. Here, it's like it's the same thing every single time. You're trying to get better every time.
well, and that's the thing, right? Because like I've got a couple financial advisor buddies who went out to Dallas and did it a month or two ago.
Mhm.
They're looking at doing it in DC. I might join up with them. I'm not sure yet because I've got a baby coming in June, and I forget when the DC one is, but it doesn't line up
Congratulations, man.
great. Thank you, thank you. And I've got a toddler at home, so traveling's not the easiest right now.
Right.
And so, but like, so you get that community aspect, right, where you can bring in your
Mhm.
friends and other like fitness people that you kind of communicate with, and you can kind of compete with each other, but also compete with yourself, knowing that it's like yeah, sure, you might blow up a little bit for a day or two, but like it's just
Right.
it's definitely different than CrossFit where things are just different all the time. So I think they've got the community aspect which will help them grow, and it just does seem to be gaining a lot of popularity. And it's got for like I feel like it appeals to both runners and lifters a bit. I
Right.
the running part for me is like, oh wow, I really have to practice that. Whereas like there's a lot of people on the flip
Right.
side that are like, oh, the lifting, like I'd have to practice those lifts. Whereas like I look at it, I'm
Right.
like, that part wouldn't be bad, that wouldn't be bad. Oh, that running's gonna really suck. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, the great thing is, so obviously I lift. And the lifting is the easy part, right? And I did
Right.
one recently. Sadly, I had the flu when I
I
did it.
saw that. You tried to do it
I
with the
felt
flu.
terrible. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but it's like you know what? One thing I always preach is if you're going to be a leader, you should do it too, right? So I'm like, all right, I got a bunch of these people here. I'll jump in and try it. And I'm not a runner,
Was
so
that
the
the
running
Dallas one
killed
that
me.
you were at?
No, so I coached in Dallas. I went to Chicago with a group
Okay.
of people. We did it in November in Chicago. And man, I'm telling you, like you think like I can push a sled with 5 plates like nothing. It's just I'll sprint it down. Man, I went there after running a couple of Ks, like, okay, this is way worse than I thought. So I gotta give it a lot of respect. It sounds easy to do this event or that, but when you piece it together, it's like, okay, this is challenging, man. Like
Yeah.
this is really cool. I mean, you could do it as a partner, whether it's two guys, two girls, or you know, I got a husband and wife who are 52 years old are going to do it together. I'm like, this is cool. All right, let's do this together. Let's see what it is. So it's a different blend to this, you know?
And when more people can access it, so you got the community part, you got the accessibility. I think that's a
Mhm.
good combination for growth. So, all right, my last question is, why on earth did you cut your godly looking hair? I thought that was an AI photo.
Yeah.
When I went to your Instagram
No,
to
it's
kind of
a
research, the first one that popped up, there's like a side by side of you now and you with the hair, and I was like, oh, that's
right.
like AI. And I kept scrolling, I was like, that is not AI.
Right. So I grew it out when COVID hit. I'm like, all right, I never had my hair long. Can't get anything cut
Can't
because
get
everything was
cut.
shut down.
Yeah,
And then it started growing. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's just let it grow. And then it started getting longer. I'm like, okay, it's pretty. And then I have to say, man, I give so much respect to women because to take care of
that's what I've
hair,
heard.
like, hair mask, washing, this is what you got. I'm like, this is ridiculously a lot of time to this. So I was like, you know what? I love it, man, but it just got annoying over time. I had it
For
for
sure.
3 years, I think. I'm like, okay, it was fun while it lasted. I'm gonna cut it. And so I cut it. So there's sometimes I miss it, but then sometimes I'm like, you know what? All those products and everything I do to it is just ridiculous, man. So like
Yeah, no, that
shout
makes
out to all
sense.
you women out there doing this. This is crazy how much stuff you gotta do.
I mean, I will literally like buzz my head every like couple months because I get sick of maintaining like a short haircut like you have right now.
Right. Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I just get sick of like it's cold here, right? We talked about this. So like right
Yeah.
now it's winter hat season, right? So if I have even hair like
Mm.
yours right now, which I tend to have a little bit more on top, I put a winter
Mhm.
hat on and like I can't hop on a podcast like this, right? Like I've got to go like do my
Right.
hair. So right now I've got a buzzed head and I just throw a hat on and
Right.
it's no big deal. All right, last question for you. What does wealth
Mhm.
mean to you?
Oh man, wealth means to me just being able to do things without just feeling unstoppable, right? Just being able, like, whether it's financially, you can do what you need to do without feeling like the struggle behind it. Same thing with your body, right? Being healthy enough to be able to do something without feel like you're struggling with it too. Just living life in the terms that you would like to be truly happy without feeling like there's a limitation behind it.
Love it. Great answer. Carlos, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Really pleasure to be with you, man.
If you're enjoying the Dollars and Dumbbells podcast, please head over to your podcast app and leave a rating and a review. It's super helpful to get new listeners to hear the message that we are preaching. Also, please feel free to share the episode on your Instagram story. Tag me at JustinGreenFP and let me know. I love to see who's listening and who's tuning in. All right, until next time, go be wealthy, coaches.